Hi everyone, it's Christine. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. So a couple of weeks ago, I posted a video in which I offered up the perspective that the COVID-19 pandemic had decreased or eroded, had the power of eroding psychological safety in our workplaces. And this is a problem because we know in environments with psychological safety, we have highly contributing team members. I offered up that if you're noticing less proactive inquiry, decreased quality in dialogue, right? Like quality isn't as rich as it used to be. If you're noticing lesser degrees of creativity and problem solving, this is all normal given everything we've been through. That said, it's also a sign that your psychological safety may be at risk. I assured you in that video that I would share some steps that you can take pretty much right away to start reestablishing that psychological safety. And so that's the topic of today's video. Okay, there are 4 steps that I want to cover. Now, the first thing I'll say is that it starts with leadership. And so it's not so much what can you do to reestablish psychological safety, it's what your organizational leaders can do. Unless, of course, you are an organizational leader. In that case, it really is about what can you do. So environments with high degrees of psychological safety, and as such, highly contributing teams, are marked by a few things. They're marked by rich dialogue, a fail fast and learn culture. They're also marked by vulnerability at the executive level and at the working level. And we know from Brene Brown's work that vulnerability is a leader's superpower. Now, along the lines of vulnerability comes the first thing that you can do, and that's express situational humility. It takes leaders expressing situational humility, looks like leaders telling their teams, look, we've never done this before. We're probably going to mess it up, and that's okay. We'll learn. Or leaders telling their teams, if you think this is complicated, it's because it is. It is really complicated. What we're doing is really hard, and we're going to navigate this complication together. The degree to which that validation from leaders can take the pressure down a couple of notches is it can't be underestimated. Along with situational humility comes inviting participation. So the old way of thinking is, as leaders, I need to have all the answers. I certainly used to think this way. I used to think that if somebody put me in a leadership position, it's because they expected me to have the answers. Otherwise, why would they put me there? Really, quite frankly, some of you watching this video who used to work with me in the past are probably thinking like, yeah, I remember what she was like. We know better. We now know that there is so much power in leading with questions instead of leading with answers. It's not up to leaders to be the smartest person in the room. It's up to us to cultivate an environment in which people can be at their best. And that's a very different way of managing, of leading. It's a very different set of behaviors. But that's what's required in a modern day environment if we really want to get the most out of our team and if we really want our organizations to be as effective as possible. So inviting participation looks like saying things like, I don't know, what do you think? Or I'd like to hear your thoughts. Or how would you go about solving this problem? What do you think we should do next, right? That's what it looks like. Okay, what else can you do whether or not you're in a leadership position? So there are a few things. One of them is this is a great moment to reconnect with organizational values and do a gut check on whether we're still behaving in a way that's aligned with those organizational values. So it's probably easier for me to explain what I mean with a couple of examples. So let's say I work in an organization that really values collaboration. Then I can do a gut check on, am I still pulling people together when I'm juggling a really difficult problem, or have I started to problem solve on my own in isolation of my team? Or let's say I'm in an organization that really values transparency. Then I can do a gut check on, okay, am I still communicating as often and as much as I used to, or have I started to withhold without even realizing it? So looking at what does my organization value? What are the desired behaviors? What are those behaviors that really reflect those values? And have I deviated from those behaviors without even realizing it? The third thing I would say is take the time to connect. And I know in an environment where we're under the pressure to deliver, it feels like we don't have time. But yet, think about how when you have an interaction, a really positive interaction, or when you walk away from a stimulating conversation, it feels good. So we do need to take the time to connect. It could be as easy as, for example, you develop the habit every morning when you're brushing your teeth, you think of 1 to 3 people you want to connect with that day. And you don't need to over-engineer it. It could be just a matter of sending somebody a text and saying, hey, just checking in, how's it going? Or when you're in the office, on the days that you have to be in the office, circulating and checking in with people. Hey, what are you into these days? What's got your interest these days? It could be you carve out 30, 45 minutes a week for a coffee and you invite somebody along. Or it could be you get in the habit of circulating articles or posts or even funny memes to people that you think would be interested in them, simply to say, hey, I saw this and I thought you'd get a kick out of it. Or I was reading this and it made me think, I think you're interested in this kind of stuff, so I thought I'd send it along, right? There's so many ways to connect, and it's so important because it's foundational. It's, via connection, we develop a sense of belonging. We start to build cohesion. We really start to foster, it's a key element to fostering a healthy organizational culture. And so it's important that we do take the time. It's also really good for our own well-being. Okay, now these 4 steps are not going to automatically reestablish psychological safety in your organization, right? They're not the end all be all. They're a start point. There could be other things going on in your organization that need to be addressed more strategically. But at least, you do these things, you start to get people to open up a bit more, to start using their voices again. And then from there, you can tackle the harder issues a bit more strategically. So consider these a start point, but these are also all things that you can pretty much start doing as of tomorrow when you're brushing your teeth, thinking about who you're going to connect with. Okay, so as always, I hope this video was helpful. I look forward to your comments. Maybe before I wrap up, speaking of what are you interested in these days, I'm really interested in the role rituals play in the workforce. And so if you have rituals that work really well in your organization, or if you've read articles about this, if this is something that's also of interest to you, I'd love to hear about what you're seeing, what you're reading. Feel free to connect with me. But yeah, rituals in the workplace is my next thing. Okay, with that, I will be back again in a couple of weeks. Thank you again for clicking, and see you soon.